came into being, what was the idea behind it, and how this can help startups like yours to accelerate and reach that next level. So without further ado, I'll just share my screen. I think I'm not able to share my screen. Kshitij, could you help me out here a bit? Came into being, what was the idea behind it, and how this can help startups like yours to accelerate and reach that next level.
One second, I'm doing that. I have made you the host. Can you please try that now?
Oh, just a second. Okay. Right. Did you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Perfect.
Okay, great. All right. So, yeah. So this is the basic outline of today's presentation. Basically covering the need for the scheme, what are the benefits that we offer to startups, and how that benefit reaches to each startup across India. A brief overview of how the operations of the scheme work. And lastly, I'll cover the scheme guidelines and basic eligibility criteria for startups as well as incubators. So I'll begin with why the scheme was launched. Essentially, this, Startup India, the Ministry of Commerce realized that funding for startups in the early stages is not available. Either it be at the bank's level, loans are not available to startups in the early stages, or even angel investors are not willing to fund startups in the first few years of its journey. So the scheme was aimed to provide financial assistance to the startups for proof of concept, prototype development, product trials, market entry, and commercialization. All these 5 stages are covered within the first few years, and this is focused mainly on the first few years of the startups, which specifically are the first 2 years. So we have an outlay of 900 crores for startups. It's already been 2 years since the scheme has been launched. Apart from that 900 crores that is there for startups, which is part of it is 20 lakhs as grant and up to 50 lakhs as debt or debt-linked instruments. 45 crore is also there for as management fee for incubators to run their operations within the scheme. So this 945 crore outlay is there for over 4 years of the scheme's operations. The scheme was announced by Prime Minister during Prarambh on 16th January 2021, and it aims to support estimated 3,600 entrepreneurs across the country. The scheme has been operationalized through incubators, and everything is operationalized through incubators. Then the startups apply to incubators and they are selected under the scheme. We have received more than 9,000 startup applications till date on the portal, and approximately 1,100 plus startups have been selected as of today. We have 163 incubators as of today as part of the scheme. As I told you, we have more than 1,000 startups selected, and 176 crores has been approved to these startups on the portal. These startups are from 30 plus states and UTs across the country. This is just a basic outline of what these startups, where these startups hail from. So we have 50% of startups that are led by women directors. 58% of these startups are from tier 2 and tier 3 cities in the country. 55 industries are represented through this scheme, since this is a sector agnostic scheme. And you can see how many, the top 5 industries that the Startup India scheme has been able to cater to, and the top 5 states, including Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. The operations of the schemes are such that DPIIT, the Department for Promotion of Internal Trade and Industry, has set up an EAC, an expert advisory committee, which reviews and selects incubators on a regular basis. These incubators, once selected, are part of the scheme, and then the funds are released to them. Post the fund release, they are able to select and mark startups on the portal. How are startups able to apply? The call for application for incubators is open throughout the year. So they are selected by the EAC, and the review of the incubators is also conducted by the EAC. Similarly to incubators, these startups, which is a very important focus for you guys, The call for application for them is also open throughout the year on the portal, and startups are selected by the incubator seed management committee. Once the incubator selects the startups within the 45-day period, the fund allocation to the startup begins from the incubator's side. Grants are disbursed to startups within the first 60 days of the receipt of the application, so that the startups are able to use and continue with their efforts to bring the startup to the new level immediately. And the review of the startup's performance is also carried out by the incubator. The quantum of fund, which is a very important factor here, what is the benefit that the startups get by coming under the scheme, is that essentially incubators receive 5 crore of funding, up to 5 crore of grant from DPIIT, which they receive in tranches. And that, once approved, can be used to disburse to startups either as grant of up to 20 lakhs, which is based on milestones, and it is used to conduct proof of concept, prototype development, or product trials. The grant is released up to 60 days from the date of receipt of application. Apart from grant, we also have a component of up to 50 lakhs of debt or debt-linked instruments like CCDs and OCDs that the startups can apply for, which are in the later stages of its business. That includes commercialization and scaling up. This is an unsecured loan with the rate of interest of not more than prevailing repo rate, and there's a fixed tenure of not more than 60 months. There's also a moratorium period provided to startups of 1 year within that 16-month period. These are some salient features of the scheme. It's a year-round call for application for startups and incubators. Both there's a centralized call for applications for startups. Instead of directly reaching out to incubators, you can apply on the portal to any 3 preferred incubators across the country, irrespective of this region. It is a sector agnostic scheme, so there's not any preference to any specific sector, and D2C sector startups can definitely apply to the scheme. Virtual incubation is available for startups, and as I told you, that you can apply to 3 incubators simultaneously. Coming towards the Expert Advisory Committee, we'll just stay here for a bit. This is to show you the relevant members from the government as well as the industry that are present in the Expert Advisory Committee to review the incubators, so that the incubators that eventually select the startups are well informed and are up to the mark as per the scheme guidelines. So these are few members who are responsible for the selection of the incubators, which ultimately select the startups. What is the assistance that we provide to incubators? So EAC is conducted every quarter, and a grant of up to 5 crore is provided to incubators. These are certain points that incubators need to keep in mind. Skipping this a bit, coming to the eligibility criteria for startups. So a startup recognized by DPIIT and incorporated not more than 2 years ago at the time of application can be eligible for application under Startup India Seed Fund scheme. It must have a business idea to develop a product or a service that is market fit and viable commercialization. Startup should be using technology. It's either in its core product or any service, basically in its usage of the product or the service. Preference would be given to sectors such as social impact, waste management, water, education, healthcare, energy, and mobility. So the another criteria for startups is that they should not have received more than 10 lakhs of monetary support under any other central or state government scheme. This does not include subsidized working space, founder monthly allowance, and prize money from competitions. And shareholding by Indian promoters should be at least 51% in the startup. So the assistance that is provided to startups by the selected incubator is that either the startup can apply for up to 20 lakhs of grant for its first 3 proof of concept, prototype development, and product trial stages, or that grant is disbursed to the startups in milestone-based installments. And these installments are decided by the incubator seed management committee with discussion with the startup. Apart from the grant, the startup can apply for up to 50 lakhs of investment through debt or debt instruments for market entry, commercialization, or scaling up. This is to be taken care of. The startup uses this money only for the business's growth and not for any creation of facilities. These are some benefits that incubators provide to startups under the scheme and are required to provide to startups. You receive physical infrastructure physical and structure support under the scheme. Support testing and validation of ideas is carried out. Developing of functional capacities of the startup is also a responsibility of the incubator. You get access to multiple investor networks and national and international events. Mentorship throughout the incubation period is also a part of this scheme. Coming towards the startup, what a startup is, this was also covered in a previous session that we had with D2C Insider with you guys. But just to give you a brief again, what a startup is considered as per the DPIIT definition is any private limited company, limited liability partnership, or registered partnership which has not completed 10 years from the date of incorporation, has not exceeded 100 crores in any fiscal year, and is innovative, scalable, and creates job and wealth. The recognition process is quite simple. There's an online application form which takes about 15 to 20 minutes to fill with supporting documents. Once you've filled it, the application is reviewed by a committee and recognition is given to the startup within 4 to 5 days. The key benefits of getting recognized is not just you can apply to the Startup India Seed Fund scheme, but you can also get access to government procurement, patent grant features, and tax benefits. One more thing that I'd like to focus is that although the definition covers that the startup should not exceed 10 years, as per the seed fund scheme guidelines, it is only for startups that have not completed 2 years. So if your incorporation has been more than 2 years, then you're not eligible for applying to the scheme, as it is focused for mainly early stage entrepreneurs. With this, I come to the end of the seed fund scheme presentation. This is the code for you guys to open the portal and see for yourself how we work and what is the scheme about. I would just like to take you guys through a walkthrough of the Startup India portal and how application can be submitted on the portal. So I'd like to just share another document.
Sure. Folks on the webinar, in the interim, if you have any questions, please you can put it on the Q&A section. Once Arushi completes the live demo of application, we can take up questions.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Arushi, we can see the screen.
Great. So this is just to give you guys a walkthrough of how you can apply to this. Right. Okay. Okay, so basically you'll have to create an account on the Startup India hub itself first. You'll have to navigate to the portal. I'll put a link once I'm done with this presentation in the chat box. You need to create an account on Startup India hub. You need to fill your required details of name, email ID, and mobile number. And once you create the account, you need to log in with that account and create the account as a startup here. You need to click on startup. Once you do that, you need to fill in details regarding your startup, create a password, and add your details. Once all of that is done, with the same login credentials, you need to log into the Startup India portal, which is also integrated in the Startup India hub itself. You can go to the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme portal from there and click on login. In the incubator startup credentials area, you need to add those login credentials. Once you're inside, once you've logged in, you need to click on apply now and apply as a startup with details such as the name, designation, mobile number. The authorization letter is basically a form which you need to fill regarding who will be managing the processes of your startup's application for your startup. The entity details, PAN number, or some other features. Is it a technology startup? You need to fill in a few questions here. What is the problem that you're solving? What is your unique selling point? What is your target customer? LinkedIn profile links are optional. details about your startup's team, the number of people in your team and the team's criteria. The fund deployment plan will basically how much you're asking for. Is it grant or is it debt, depending on the stage that you fall in as per the scheme guidelines, and how will that money be utilized for the progress of your startup. The incubator preference list. So this is a very important factor. Before logging in here, I would also recommend all of you to check out the portfolio page of incubators on the portal. There is a detailed outlay of, we have around 163 incubators that I told you. So you need to figure out which 3 incubators are the most suitable for your startup. It could be on several factors depending on your approach. It could be about the region you're from, the sector you're from. So all of those details regarding the incubators are mentioned in the portfolio page. There's also sometimes encouraged that the incubators reach out to these, the startups reach out to these incubators indirectly, and figure out if this will be a great match for you. This is also because if you get selected under this, if you have applied under the scheme, it takes about 45 days for the incubator to review that profile. And it will help you understand if that incubator is a good fit for you. Because if you're rejected, you will be able to apply only after 3 months. So once you've applied, and if by chance you get rejected by all 3 incubators, then you will have to wait for another 3 months to reapply to the scheme. Also make sure that you fill in the preference list depending very carefully, because if let's say you have filled in a preference 1 incubator and preference 2 incubator selects you, and later on you would like to go with the preference 2 incubator, that is not possible if in case the first preference incubator has selected you, because that the allotment of the application will be as per your preferred incubator. So you will get allotted to your most preferred incubator that has selected you. These are some other documents that you need to upload. Once that is done, it will show as submitted in the in progress tab on your portal, and that is it. You need to wait for 45 days, and within those 45 days only, the incubator teams might reach out to you for a pitch deck presentation, basis which the further discussions between the startup and the incubator will take place. Yeah, so I come to the end of the presentation with this, and over to you, Kshitij, and would love to have discuss any questions that you might have.
Hey, thank you so much, Arushi. I think this is very helpful, and thank you to the Government of India for coming up with a great initiative like this. Few questions that have come up. Someone is asking, hey, didn't see F&B sectors mentioned as part of the startups who received grants. As you mentioned, the scheme is sector agnostic. Can we still go ahead and apply?
Definitely. I think I just covered top few sectors in the slide that they're talking about, but all sectors are eligible to apply under the scheme.
Got it. I think this question was answered last time, but I'll take it up. It was, can we apply as a sole proprietorship? I think sole proprietorship companies are not recognized as startup in the Startup India scheme. So I think you cannot apply as a sole proprietorship. You'll have to register as a LLP or a private limited company.
Right.
The next one is, so there is a preference of funding towards healthcare, waste management, or social impact startups. What about tech-enabled D2C startups? Our company is already recognized by DPIIT, but we are not sure about this application due to this preference.
So there is no as such no preference to certain sectors. It is just that as per the guidelines it was outlaid, but since you're applying to incubators and they are the ones that will evaluate your application, you are free to apply from any sector, and it might not be covered in the preference sector as per the guidelines, but that does not limit your application to any, this does not restrict your application. It is most definitely eligible if you fall under the eligibility criteria, of course. So that deviation is not there. Yeah.
Got it. Will the fund be equity free? What about grants?
Yes, so there is no equity that is there in the scheme because it was outlaid for the benefit of the startup. And plus, since the startups are in the first 2 years of its business, equity did not make sense. So incubators are definitely not allowed to take equity under the scheme. And if any incubator takes equity, we are definitely, there are stringent measures against the incubator. So it's just grant of up to 20 lakhs if you fall in that criteria of product trial, prototype development. If you fall in the category of market entry, commercialization, or scaling up, you can apply for debt of up to 50 lakhs.
So, Arushi, one question. So, what's the incentive for the incubator to kind of facilitate and run this entire process? Because if the incubator does not get equity, what's the incentive alignment for the incubator to do all of this?
Right. So firstly, as I told you in the first few slides, the incubators get a management fee of up to 5% of the total approved amount. Let's say an incubator got approved 5 crores. The incubator will get 25 lakhs as an additional amount to run the scheme.
Got it. Got it. Understood. The next one is that my company is more than 2 years old, but my startup got the Startup India certificate last year. Still, I can apply or not?
No, it depends on the incorporation certificate only and the incorporation date. In fact, if your company has incorporation, then you're not eligible.
Got it. When you mentioned technology should be at the core of the product or service, how does it work for D2C brands? What qualifies as technology for such brands? I think a very important and interesting question, and maybe because I was getting the same question, that how does technology qualify for brands as a business?
So I mean, even for D2C brands, there is technology. People have, the brands have omni channels, right? So that any component of your business, if it is using technology, then it most definitely can apply to the scheme.
So when we say technology, so essentially, if you look at any D2C brand today, right, by virtue, they are selling direct to consumer using internet as a medium of doing business.
Right. So that also, yes, that counts.
Especially that is use of technology as far as selling products is concerned, right?
Yes.
That is one. Second, we use an extensive suite of technology service providers, whether be it logistics, warehousing, etc. So there is technology across everywhere in our operations, right? End to end, we use multiple marketing automation tools. So, like, do we need any specific on the product front that the product alone has to be technology oriented?
No, I think there was some miscommunication on my part also. There's no, it's not just for the product or service. It is in any component of your business. If technology is being used, then you're definitely eligible under the scheme.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. What is the average timeline for from application to approval and receiving the grant?
So once you apply to the scheme, from that date of application, there is a hard stop at 45th day. So the incubators that you applied to have to evaluate your application within those 45 days itself, which means that they have to have the pitch deck presentation, as they say, with the ISMC committee. And once that is done, they need to approve, basically mark, select or reject the application on the portal before the 45th day. If in case the incubators are unable to do that, then it is auto rejected from their end on the portal, and the incubator that marks it selected will get allotted these data.
So the approval process is it twofold? Is it like the incubator first approving it and then it goes to the Startup India team to approve it further from there, or it stops at the incubator approval?
So it stops at the incubator's approval, because the incubator, the seed management committee of the incubator, which is specifically formed for this scheme itself. Once an incubator is a part of a scheme, before applying also they need to form an ISMC, which is the incubator seed management committee. I'll share the guideline link here as well. That ISMC takes care of the evaluation of the startups, and that is the basically the end of the startups application process. So that is the last final selection or rejection of the startup.
Got it. Slightly different question, but so how can you start an incubator? That's the question.
I think that is not for the Ministry of Commerce, but there are multiple ministries that have schemes for the outlay of incubators. Example can be BIRAG, DST. You can check those schemes out on open sources, and that will definitely lead out. This is a question for much larger. But Ministry of Commerce.
But the incubators are recognized under DST, is it? The Department of Science and Technology?
Yes, so there are multiple schemes. There is Atal Incubation Centers also, AICs as we call it. So under Niti Aayog, so those also have incubators that they set up. So there is also Center of Excellences under STPI initiatives. So you can check these initiatives out.
Got it. So that's not under being an incubator or getting recognized as an incubator is not a part of the Startup India today.
No, so we do not basically set up, help in
Or
setting
take
up.
applications for being an incubator. So let's say
No.
that's not
None.
understood.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So but does the incubator help with any credits for services like cloud hosting or any other tools as well?
So it depends on the incubator team which you apply to. These specific details, I think, would be more, beneficial if you ask the particular incubator team that you apply to. And you can also check these details out on the portfolio page that we have on the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme portal.
Got it. There is one question from Nishant. He's asking, we do green funding and carbon finance at Waltus, which is his company. They've delivered about 9 billion green funding, and our team is working with leading corporates, etc. Would like to connect with green tech startups you are supporting and that are ready to scale. Like, is there a way to get details of these companies via startup?
Unfortunately, we do not share the details of the startups that are associated with us, but I think we can take this up offline as well, in more detail if we can. Yeah.
Sure. On the website, we can see a list of incubators mentioned under the portfolio tab. Is there a reference where we can find startups that are funded by this scheme?
No, as of now, we do not release the details of the startups that are funded under the scheme. But if any information is required, you can reach out to me.
Okay.
I have also shared the guidelines link in the chat box. And yeah.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. I think we have one more question. So does the incubator have to give grants and debt from the 5 crore AUM, or do they have different funds for both objectives?
So the incubator, that the approved amount that is up to 5 crores, apart from the management fees, that amount totally is to be used for the startups purpose. So that 5 crore has to be disbursed to the startups alone.
No, I think the question is, does that 5 crore get deployed as grants or does it get deployed as debt?
The incubator gets grant of 5 crore.
So the debt is over and above the 5 crore grant that the incubator gets for investing into startups. So you mentioned about two programs, right? You mentioned about up to 50 lakh unsecured loan, which comes as a debt.
Yeah.
So 50 lakh is not a part of the 5 crore AUM that the incubator gets, or is it a part of the same?
So the 5 crore, up to 5 crore component that I'm talking about is part of the grant that the incubator gets to disburse to startups only. So out of that 5 crore, the 20 lakhs or the 50 lakhs component for the startups as grant or either debt is released. So yes, it is part of that 5 crore. But as I told you, the incubators get a 5% of incubation management fees over the bar. Yeah.
All right. One more question, a slightly bigger one. Hey, hi, Arushi. I applied for multiple times in the last 1.5 years for grant for my D2C brand and got rejected several times by incubators. The answer is same all the time. Startup is very early stage to invest. At least you show some traction. I just wanted to know what's the objective of SISFS. Provides financial assistance to startups for proof of concept, prototype development, product trials, market entry, and commercialization, right? Then why are incubators rejecting by saying show some traction? So I think the question is that, you mentioned that the objective is more for POC and prototype development, but I think he's hearing a contrary view from incubators that, you need to show some traction before, without which we will not put in money. So the question is that why is it so?
Right. So I have shared the email ID at which you can write your grievance as the issue that you're facing with the incubators. And I think this is one-on-one conversation that we would like to have apart from this meeting. And we can definitely take this up later. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I think cool. So Arushi, we are done with our set of the Q&As that have come in. And I think this puts us to an end to this amazing session that we had. I would request you two, if you can share the presentations that you had put in across, which you can share it with the larger group along with the recording that we will be sharing out. And guys, Arushi has also mentioned. So I'm just I think that Arushi, these links have come to me only because it has only gone to the hosts. So I will put them across and put it on the community groups along with the recording that I end up sending.
Definitely. I'll share the PPT with you as well, that you can further give it to other startups.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I'd just like to focus on the next webinar that you're going to have with Shambhavi. She'll be covering
Yeah.
the topic on Marg, which is mentorship, the mentorship platform of Startup India Initiative. It's basically a platform where startups can connect with mentors with 6+ years of experience directly. You can come and log in on the Mark portal and select the startup, the mentors for those startups in your specific sector itself. So D2C, experience mentors will help you out in your application process, or if you are in your whatever stage of business you are, basically you can seek help on pro bono basis from these mentors on the portal and have your meetings with them on the portal as well to track your progress. So more on that will be covered in the later session by Shambhavi, which is
I think very excited for it because back then we were building our startups earlier. We never had a platform which can give us that ease of mentorship access. So I think a platform like Marg is really going to be a big needle mover for all of us, all the young and budding entrepreneurs here. So I think thank you so much for that, and looking forward to the next session.
Thank you so much, Kshitij. Thank you everyone for having me here. Hope the Startup India presentation was helpful for you. And if you have any or directly on the email that I've shared over chat box. Thank you so much.
I will share it across with the larger community. Thank you so much, Arushi, and pleasure talking to you.
Same here, Kshitij. Thank you.